Oh, you look great. I love your background.
Thanks.
My old cowboy set here that is not actually mine.
Oh, really? I love it. It looks so like California over there. Oh, makes me want that nice like breeze.
That's so funny.
I think
All right, are we ready? Oh, are
we're
we
live. We are live, ladies.
We're live. Hi, ladies. Sorry about that. Good afternoon. Good Monday afternoon. This lovely spring week. We are very, very lucky today to have Brandy VanGessel with us. She is a co-founder of Awaekn Creative out of Grand Haven, Michigan.
Grand Rapids, actually. So about 20 minutes from Jamie Cooper.
Gotcha. And Jamie is actually not meant to join us today. She is home with her sick baby, but we can still see her. You want to be on camera right now? Okay. Bye, Jamie. She's going to be helping us out in the background there. So welcome, Brandy.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking with Brandy about experiential design, and we're going to focus some attention on dispensary design. About a month and a half ago or so, Brandy posted a photo of a dispensary that her company had redone. I don't know, did you build it out from the beginning or was it a remodel?
So that is just the design. So it hasn't been built, but it's a rendering of the design.
Well, it definitely stirred some conversation in the group. So I knew I had to get Brandy on because we actually have never talked about dispensary design. And I like where this conversation is going about experiential design. And as you mentioned when we were talking earlier, it also includes events and trade shows. And it's something that we really do need to start exploring is the kinds of experiences that we're going to be creating for people through our design, through the events, through our trade shows, through how our branding kind of interacts to create a full experience for people. And so we're very lucky to have Brandy here today to talk about it. So Brandy, I'm going to actually hand this over to you now. I definitely want to hear about your background, and then you brought us some slides to give us a more understanding of what experiential design is and how we can start to look at it as business owners who might have either a store to open or trade shows coming up or whatever. So take it away, Brandy.
Okay. Awaekn Creative, we are a fairly new company. We just launched like in February. And I will bring up.
Wow, congratulations.
So thank you. So you guys can see.
So while you're doing that, I want to ask you, you and I had spoken about the design that you had posted, and you mentioned something about the Guatemalan hoodie.
Yeah, the Baja hoodie.
Baja hoodie.
So this is my partner, Hillary. I want to make sure I mention her because she is just such a huge driving force, kind of us together. But also this company was really born out of our desire after we got our Michigan medical cards. We started looking for information and trying to figure out where to go and who to talk to. And as new consumers, it was really difficult. And we had worked together doing design at another branded environment company before, and we just thought, this is a huge hole. Like, we need more of this design, we need more education, and we need better ways to take this cannabis experience and make it mainstream. So that was really kind of the impetus for starting this. So Hillary's an industrial designer, and she is actually located in Atlanta. So we're a dual city, which has been super cool. We get to be plugged into kind of both communities, and it's really interesting seeing the stuff that's happening down there. I am a previous creative director for a CGI company, which is computer generated imagery. So we specialized in recreating interiors, mostly for office furniture, but any situation where you'd want to show something and you might not have the budget to photograph it, or you might have so many products, but you don't want to order all the samples. So we did that all in CGI. So also formerly creative director at a branded environment agency. So kind of, we've got a big mix of skills, and that's why I've had a little bit of trouble defining exactly what our agency is, because we do a lot of different things. Let's see. So I wanted to talk about, we went back and forth about what we should focus on, and should it be only interiors. And we really thought we want to talk about experiential design. What is it? Why you should use it? This is kind of like a new buzzword that's been coming up over the last like 10 years or so. And it really kind of, it's driven by social media because people are, people want experiences more and more, and the retail environment is really changing. So I'm hoping that these are just kind of a good conversation starter and get you thinking about how you can use experiential design to reach your customer base, whether you're just starting out or you're about to build out a store or anywhere in between. There's a ton of different ways you can use it.
Did I explain what experiential design is somewhat?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's tough too, because it can really be, it can be anything that is an experience. So, everything from, it might be a 1-minute interaction to a whole event. It's all experiential. And it kind of, you approach it from a different direction. So this is kind of a really loose definition of what it is. So it's a combination of image, type, form, physical space, technology, other content, color. It's really all of these elements coming together, and it creates environments. It connects people to locations, and that can be super important. And then another main feature is it stimulates multiple senses. So it's not just a graphic on a wall. It might be the sound when you walk into a store, or it might be the feeling of the packaging when you pick it up. Like there's multiple senses at play. And one I wanted to point out on this slide specifically is 1964, which is a super cool cannabis brand. On their packaging here, they actually have a little tear off, and it's to make a filter. So that really shows how it works with your customer experience design. So that's something where they really planned for their customer experience, and experiential design kind of builds off of that. So where is it found? The first one, architectural graphics. Everybody has seen these, everyone's familiar with these, and everybody needs these. So if you have a building, you need architectural graphics. And a lot of it is wayfinding. It's education, letting your customers know where to go. Where do I go for this service? Where do I sign in? Lobby graphics, anything like that. So yeah, you're probably familiar seeing it in those spaces. I'm trying to make sure I got all my notes in here. So yeah, these ones are super cool. I especially love the one on the far right, which is the public theater in, I don't quite remember what city it's in, but they have all of their graphics are actually embossed into their building's architecture, which I think is super cool. It gives a really different look. Second place you see it, exhibitions, and everybody's pretty familiar with this. So museums, galleries, I'd even throw maybe like a donor wall in this category. But really it's about conveying information through an exhibit. That's another big place you see experiential design. Branded environments. So this is where we really get into starting to talk about dispensary design. And probably the branded environment you guys are all mostly familiar with is your grocery store. Most grocery stores are a full, complete branded environment. And I think Whole Foods probably does it best.
Yeah.
That's the one on the upper right over here. They really have done a super great job making each of their environments really, that you're in a Whole Foods when you walk into a Whole Foods, but each one is still its own individual design and experience, which is super cool. Other examples, so corporate headquarters, this has been big in corporate headquarters. They want their employees to feel like they're part of a bigger movement and part of the company. So that's something too, when we talk about dispensary design, you want to keep in mind, like, what are your spaces like for your employees? Do they feel like they're part of your company, and does it, is it an uplifting experience for everyone start to finish, including your employees? Sports, so that's the other, universities, professional sports. That's where you see a ton of experiential design, and locker rooms have been big with colleges trying to recruit new prospects. We actually worked on a Viking fan experience for the Super Bowl, which is super cool. Also branded environment. And then restaurants. Everyone's been to restaurants. And I think restaurants are actually the most fun because you see this huge variety in different types of environments and experiences when you go out to eat, all the way, from McDonald's to a 5-star restaurant. And I think that's something that dispensaries should keep an eye on, is look at the variation in restaurants. You can really have a very tailored experience and you still be very successful and really grow your brand that way. Let's see. Last one, entertainment. So this is kind of where you start to see, or actually I think I've got one more, but entertainment. So concerts, specific events like the Color Run. And then this is our big one. Hillary just finished working on this design. It was a yurt that they did for Coachella. It was through Marriott, so you could go stay in this yurt. But this was all designed as an experience for, I think it was for super fans or something. So, everything in there was picked out and curated specifically to create this certain type of experience. And then, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Jamie says she wants to stay in that yurt.
Oh, I know. I do. I want that chair, that womb chair. It's so gorgeous. But oh yeah, so that's kind of entertainment. And then the last one is marketing campaigns. And I feel like this one is one that we're pretty familiar with. And this might also kind of ring a bell when you hear experiential. So it's a little bit kind of like guerrilla marketing, where you've got this one example I have is this Jeep ad where they printed different parking spaces on spots you wouldn't normally park. And then, this crazy Sprite shower, but just something that makes a big splash, gets people posting, is unexpected. That's kind of the other place you see a lot of experiential design. So how is it used? These are kind of like techniques. Obviously, there's hundreds of different techniques and hundreds of different ideas, but these are just some of the major ones we identified. So the first one, short-term retail. So that's your trade shows, pop-up shops, which I think for cannabis and cannabis products could be huge. You don't have the big investment of doing a whole shop, but eventually, hey, it'd be really cool if you could, partner with your local, grocery store maybe, and set up your own little pop-up shop with your own product. And it's a whole experience unto itself. So some of these examples, like this Hunter one at the bottom, I thought was super cool. I think they actually had rain misting in there.
Oh, wow.
So, it's in a London train station, I believe.
Wow.
But, it's not permanent. That's the thing with short-term retail. So it's not permanent, but it's something that makes a big impact and kind of changes the way that customer would normally shop for that product or think about your brand. So, the Chanel, I think they're selling makeup in there, but, it looks like a flower stand. How fun is that? Like, you're going to want to stop over there and see, what is this about? Like, obviously, Chanel doesn't sell flowers. So what are you selling here? And this is really cute. And you're going to want to photograph it and share it and tell people. And I think that's a huge opportunity for cannabis, especially, just to get out there and provide education and get people's eyes on our different products and different things you can do with it. Let's see. So next, point of purchase. So this is things like counter displays, actual, freestanding displays. So that's part of your retail interior, or maybe it's something that you're offering to your vendors and say, hey, I will put my stuff in a really nice counter display, and people are going to want to know what that is and go up to it. And your vendors are going to want to put that on their counter. So you got, like this Johnny Walker display I thought was really cool. And then also it's a big opportunity to educate about your product. So you can take your display as an opportunity to give more information, like this fresh film exhibit actually has a little breakdown of the shoe inside. So just thinking about ways you can utilize things you're already doing. You're already displaying your product. You already have to merchandise it, but how can you really take it to the next level and make it something that's selling for you? And then window displays I wanted to put in here too, because they're also they're not permanent, but I think they can make a big impact. And I know a lot of the dispensaries in our area are very closed off and windows shut, and obviously that's very regulated, but just the idea of, hey, you could put something out in your window that maybe isn't actual cannabis, but maybe it's something that, you know, interacts with your neighborhood or educates or just helps get your brand out there in a way that your average passerby is going to want to stop and look and be engaged. Then this next one, my favorite, retail interior design.
There's that Baja hoodie.
Yes, so this is the big one. So the one in the top, I guess it's top left kind of, that's our design. And really the idea for it was to take something that's super associated with stoner culture, which is this, you know, Baja hoodie, or some of my friends call them drug rugs, and make it high end and make it something where someone might notice it and have kind of a subliminal connection to it, but it's just completely using it in a different way that feels elevated and upscale and comfortable and clean. And I wanted to just, I've been running across a lot of really cool food retail, which is why this is mostly food, just because I think it's so cool and it really shows how you're going to have a different experience going to each of these places, even though they're all serving you, you know, stuff in the same vein. So there's a pastry shop, this looks like a coffee shop. But the experiences in all of these places are totally different, and your target market for each of these is going to be totally different. So your interior retail design really has a huge impact on who you have coming through your door, and you can really use it as a tool. I wanted to talk about coffee shops while we were on this slide, because everybody has their favorite coffee shop, and I love coffee shops because you have a totally different experience going into each different one. I know we have some here that are, you know, super crowded and they've got things on the walls all the way up to the ceiling. And then you've got something like a Starbucks, which is very, you know what you're getting when you go into a Starbucks. But just thinking about that and, you know, who do I want to come to my dispensary? Do I want it to be, you know, that mom after she drops her kids off? So does that mean I'm going to have daylight coming in my windows? Am I going to want to think about making it easy for her to get in and out? Or, you know, is it, excuse me, like deep into my example and lost my train of thought.
It's okay. I do it all the time.
But yeah, just, I guess it's really thinking about who do you want to come into your store and what are those people looking for and where else do those people shop? So, you know, a lot of that is really in narrowing down your demographic and your target market and just making sure that your environment is somewhere where your customers are going to feel comfortable. It's also a marketing tool in and of itself because you know, people will come there for that experience.
That was awesome. You can stop that screen share now because I assume, are we done or do you have one more for us?
Oh, I've got a few more.
Excellent.
I hope that's okay.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we're talking about a very visual experience.
Yes.
So I think it's important for us to really follow what you're talking about.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure to have examples because for me, like seeing the different ways that people do it kind of triggers more ideas. So, so yeah, this is kind of, our last how is in marketing campaigns. So I wanted to bring up on this one, this brand on the left, Lole. So
you have to stop and then restart it again because it's not, you have to choose the window.
Oh, let's see. Sorry about that. Okay. I moved it onto the other side, which is probably why. There we go. Are we back up?
We're there.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, interesting.
This one on the left, it's a brand called Lole. They're a yoga brand. And what I think is really cool about them is their whole marketing strategy is just experiential. So they put on events and they have a few retail stores, but other than that, they don't do commercials, they don't do print ads, they don't do anything like that. So you can really take it and utilize it for a lot of different things. And a lot of companies are kind of pivoting and using this as their main marketing strategy. So why should I use it? This is the important section. And I found some statistics for these too, for you lovers of statistics. 70% of users become regular customers after an experiential marketing event. So, I mean, that's a little different than your retail, but you know, if you hold an event, you're getting people in there. That's a pretty crazy statistic. And I just wanted to,
holy shit.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know that I've ever seen statistics like that anywhere.
I know. And there are two companies that do experiential, experiential statistics, and this Event Track is one of them. I was not able to cross-check it, but we know it's high. But I just wanted to give a couple examples of this. I thought was really cool. I don't know how many of you are gamers, but when Overwatch came out, they made these giant 20-foot tall action figures and just placed them in different places around the world, just to get brand awareness. So it gets your brand out there. It gets people asking, like, who is this? What do they do? What is this about? Same thing with this benefit trailer. If you were walking down the street and saw a bright pink trailer and you'd never heard of benefit, you might be curious. And that one's kind of a double bonus, because then you can go in and have a personal experience, and you probably will be a lifelong customer after that. And then this one with all of the tiny images, this is what's important for retail, for dispensary decor. So this is one of the most Instagram places on earth, and it is Mr. Holmes Bakehouse in San Francisco. Literally all it is this really pretty pink sign on the white subway tile. But just creating that creates enough of experience where people want to share it. And another super cool thing about that is they're actually creating their own story about when they went to visit your location. So rather than you creating a story to give to your clients, you're actually letting them come to you, create their own story, and then share it, which is just like the power of that type of organic marketing is huge. And that's something you should think about when you're designing your dispensary is, do I want to have, I mean, if you're in a state where it's legal, fully legal, but does this want to be a destination? Do I want people to share and know where we're at and kind of make it a showcase? Real-time feedback. This one's kind of a no-brainer. If you're doing an event, or if you have a way to interact with your customers where they're having experiences, you're getting their feedback. So if you want to know, do they like this packaging? Do they not? Are they, are more people looking for concentrates versus edibles? You can really use the public through these types of experiences to kind of do your own research, which I think is really cool. Next, connect in a personal way. So here's some more statistics. And really, this is what experiential marketing is about. It's about giving that person their own experience, or experiential design, excuse me. They go hand in hand, but they're different. But, when someone comes into your dispensary, you want them to be so enveloped with your brand and the environment you've created that they feel like you've created it just for them. So, obviously, way up in the 70s, they're more willing to go for a brand that's personalized and that knows them. And then this last one, customers who have great experiences spend 140% more than customers who have poor experiences.
That is amazing.
I saw that and thought, well, of course, if you have a great experience, you'll spend more. But then I thought, like, 140%, that's more than double. That's more than what they would have spent otherwise. So that's a big deal. And then this one, which I think brands who are emerging, this is a big deal. Just to bring your brand into the real world, bring it out into the sun, let people know who you are and what you're about. And I thought this is a Pantone Cafe. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Pantone, they're a color company. They do, trend forecasting, color, basically all about color, so design.
Probably the coolest company in the whole world that all they get to do is color.
Yes. But I saw this and just thought, how cool. So they came up with their own little cafe, and it was all Pantone branded, but it really is a way for kind of, regular people to engage with Pantone, people who aren't necessarily working with it every day. And it's a huge content creator. So they've just got people churning out photos of these beautiful drinks they're making and this wonderful environment. And yeah, I think that's a huge deal. So this is the end. So it's just, where do I start? And this kind of applies for anything experiential, retail design. Basically, the next step after you decide what your brand is. So the first one is have your assets in place. So know what your logo is, know what your graphics are. Don't start planning your dispensary design or your trade show booth or your anything until you know what your brand is, because that's going to inform what types of experiences you're creating. If you're looking to really have one-on-one connections with people, you might not want to have a huge experiential event, that hundreds of people show up to and you can't have that personal connection. So it's really important to, well, I guess that goes with goals, but, have your assets in place, have your goals in mind, and then be ready to talk about your budget. I know it's really hard for people to talk about design budget, even if they have money set aside or if they have budget set aside. But really, there's so much room to modify and edit and tailor to what you're doing, that don't be afraid to talk about budget with your designer. And good design really comes out of having those constraints. So I just wanted to put that in there. That's pretty much it. I kind of, open to questions or whatever.
Okay.
I hope it wasn't super fast.
It does go fast. Okay. So you can just stop that share. There you go. All right. Well, that was really visually stimulating. It really got me thinking about a lot of different ways that we're kind of, as the cannabis industry, leaving experience on the table.
Exactly.
We just think, oh, well, I provide cannabis and there you go. I'll educate you about how to use it. But no one, okay, let me back up. Who do you see in this industry who's really grasping this concept and running with it?
I think, is it Candescent or Canadescent? Mm-hmm. Those guys, they're everywhere. Like, they were at Coachella. Their Instagram looks great. Like, you can tell they are really out there looking to grab those customers through multiple different ways. So it's, they have beautiful packaging, but they're also going out and doing these events. They have beautiful trade show booth. I know just here in Michigan, we had a company that came out just with products to try. I'm trying to think of who it was. But even that, just having different vape pens there for people to try. I know at least here in a super regulated state, that's stuff that people don't even see and they might not even know is out there. So I think that's really cool, just to go out and do demos and be able to show.
So we look at those marketing slides that you showed, the event slides. Who is really capitalizing on that? Who is doing something that's just remarkably brilliant when it comes to experience creation?
Let me pull up. I've got to grab a brand example. I have some super beautiful dispensaries saved out, so I want to figure out what the name of it is because I don't know the name off the top of my head. And it really, one that we should probably talk about is MedMen, because I think they really, they've kind of taken cannabis and made it really, it's pretty approachable, it's fast, it's clean. I think experience-wise, it will be, there are specific people who will go there, but they have really taken it and defined what their experience is, which I think is really cool. And that's why you hear it listed as a benchmark. People will say, well, I want to do what they did or not what they did.
Yeah. That you knew.
Let's see. Sorry. there's not a ton of really great media on it, which has been another struggle. You know, if you go to Google, you know, top dispensary design, you're really seeing the same 3 or 4 over and over again. So I know we are always looking to try to figure out, like, well, who's doing this cool thing. Okay, let's see. I just have to figure out what the name of this is. I'm on my other screen.
Okay. So one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on was because I wanted to also give women an idea of the kinds of things that they need to think about when they're thinking about their interior for their dispensary. And yes. I mean, how many of us have walked into dispensaries that made us shudder and made us want to leave immediately, or it was laid out so poorly couldn't find anything, or just felt like a cookie cutter of everything else? It is such an incredible place to be able to capture and create an experience for people, being patient focused, being I mean, whatever your focus may be, there is a way to create a very special experience for people within your dispensary walls. But I see no one really taking advantage of it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It's just in all of the places I go to and have visited, and even down in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, there's not, I think a big thing is customer flow. I've been to a lot that either like have a nice waiting area. If you're going to have people wait, have a nice waiting area, and maybe maybe not just like piles of high times and stuff as magazines.
Right, with ripped furniture, right? Scary pictures on the walls. I've been in that dispensary.
Oh, totally. I've been to a few where I've gone in the waiting room and thought about leaving because, you know, it's like folding chairs. That's something that's so simple. Another one that I see often is signage. Have signage. You know, have a front sign. Have a sign that says, you know, check in and wait here if you have a setup where you need to check in. I think part of the challenge we're going to have in bringing this mainstream is making people comfortable going to buy it. And I don't think that's such a huge problem maybe out where you're at, but where I'm at, it's very conservative and there's a lot of stigma. So, you know, making it out in the open with a beautiful, you know, sign and like, hey, here we are, we're here to operate and be a regular business just like every other business. I think signage, yeah, super important.
Well, you know, I got an idea from that benefit bus as well. You know, we can take our experience out on the road. It doesn't have to be a consumption experience to take it to people, to take education, to help them get signed up for their license, to do the things that we need to do to help create those experiences that create that brand loyalty. Because, you know, one issue, here I am spending all this money and putting my healthcare, basically creating a healthcare relationship with these dispensaries, and I haven't found one I would consistently go back to.
Yeah, and it's tough to sit there and say to someone, I don't want to shop at your dispensary because they're providing a product you want. But yeah, it's I personally think there's a huge opportunity in having these events or taking it out of, you know, non-consumption events where you're just bringing this stuff out. Like, what does a hand pipe look like? What does a vape rig look like? Like, what is this stuff?
How great would it be to have a bus rolling around town that's the cannabis education bus?
Yeah, I think like the more things we can do like that, and yeah, it's all experiential. It's so even if you're a brand starting out, like maybe go to your local farmers market and just talk to people about what you're doing, or have my friends and I have been talking back and forth about it'd be fun to have a little joint rolling class, and maybe you're not actually rolling cannabis, but just to, you know, get people familiar with the terms and what they are. And there's just such a big education gap, I think.
And there are a lot of experiences that you can create for people that don't have to equal consumption.
Yes. And one thing that I'm toying around with that I think is super cool is the whole idea of marketing your terpenes, because terpenes are found in other plants. So something that you could do that could be really cool would be, you have a different setup where you have all your like pining, and you've got a few pine plants, and let people go in and smell, and then talk about the different ways that can affect you, or limonene, and you get all your citrus plants, and just cool things like that that get people more educated about what they're buying. I think that's a big thing too, is when you go in and you look at different strains, you have indica and sativa, but there's such a huge myriad of different things in that arena. So experiences where you can educate about that, and just really display different effects and different ways that you can experience it. I know that sounds a little circular, but it's crazy to me, because there's so much opportunity out there. Really, anything you do that's bringing education at this point is going to be groundbreaking. Not a lot of people are out there doing it.
It's true. There's so much opportunity, ladies. We do actually have a question. Oh no. Jamie saying amen, sister. Ladies, do you have any questions for Brandy while we have her here? I know there are questions in this audience, because we've never talked about dispensary design and experiential design. We've talked about marketing, we've talked about a lot of things in this on our Mentor Monday, but we have not talked about this. And it is such a crucial piece of the puzzle of helping cannabis become normalized, helping it to go mainstream, and really making your brand stand out. So, okay, so do you have some dispensaries for us to look at? And then maybe you can walk us through what you see in the design and help us understand, how do we look at design when it comes to our dispensaries? We mentioned customer flow. Are there other things that we need to consider? And then maybe you can give us a visual example of that as you're walking us through them. Perfect.
Okay. Let me grab. Sorry about that. I closed my window.
Don't apologize around here.
So it's so nerve-wracking being in front of the webcam. I'm really
with all the eyes on you.
Okay. I'm gonna bring. Let me open this up in a new tab so it's fresh. There's one, and I cannot find the name, but it is in Colorado, and they have some really beautiful design, and I'm just trying to open it up. But yeah, I think, I guess starters is, what's your location? So how are people going to come in the door? And what does your signage look like? How are people going to find you? Here, okay, Silver Peak, that's what it is. Let me bring up a good image to share. Okay. And I can bring this up on my screen, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is, can you see me? Did that come over?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Ooh. All right, so Silver Peak. This is one of the ones that's been all over the internet because it's really gorgeous. But one thing I love about this is, so you come in the door, first of all, it's super clean. Clean floors, clean carpet. It sounds ridiculous to say, but
that's the first thing I noticed was the rugs.
Yeah. You know, soothing color palette, wood tones. This is, you walk in here and you automatically feel like, okay, this is something that's been designed. It's very calming. And it feels high end. And part of the reason it feels high end is it's got those wood elements. It's got glass. They've got this really beautiful lighting design. Lighting design is also super important when you're talking about your dispensary. If it's really, well, and obviously for product quality too. But you know, you don't want harsh lighting. You want it to feel like, well, you want it to feel inviting. And lighting is a big part of that. But you know, they've got their signage up. They have a counter up there. It's kind of obvious when you walk in here what you do. You go, you can look at the product in the displays, and then you can go up to the counter. It sounds really, I'm trying to see if they have more pictures. It sounds really basic, but that's actually kind of a big deal. A lot of places don't have clear customer flow, or, where do I go to ask questions? And along with that too, I think making sure your employees are visible and, available to answer questions, I think is
well,
huge.
it's a little detail, but the light on the tables,
Mm-hmm.
my eyes are starting to go. I'm in mid 40s now. And when I saw those lamps, I thought, oh, okay, well, that'll make it easier to see what I'm looking at.
Yes.
And that's really understanding your customer and facilitating the areas where they might struggle a little bit.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I think, I'm trying to think of another good, I just super love this one. I think it's so gorgeous.
Beautiful. And so Jamie's just commented that, we need this for municipalities. And if we could show a municipality, hey, this is the dispensary going in, how are they going to say no to that? It's gorgeous.
I'm going to pull, yes, I totally agree. Actually, you know what I should do is I'll just bring up some of the ones we've designed and I'll walk through those.
Oh,
that might
yes.
be a little easier.
Let's look at what you've done.
I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Let's see. And we can talk about West Side Provisions, which is the one that I shared actually. Because you're right, there are some specific elements that were put in here for a specific reason. So number one is the screening on the wood slat screening that runs up both of the walls. One hand, it's supposed to be a little mid-century, it's wood, it's warm, but the other hand too, it serves a really practical purpose, and that is privacy and screening from the outside. A lot of dispensaries, especially I know around here, there's very strict rules on what you can see from the outside, and just for customers and safety, I think it's probably going to be kind of a discretion type retail environment for a while. So we wanted to do something that let light in, but also kind of was an effective screen. And then, yeah, just doing something really nice like this tile bar with underlight. So it's almost like a cocktail experience. And the idea here is you would go in, you'd take a seat and maybe chat with your bud tender for a few minutes about what you're looking for, or, if there's something new in or whatever. But it's more of a one-on-one retail experience design versus getting people in and out. And it's kind of designed for conversation, really.
I saw that immediately with the chairs at the bar.
Yeah.
Because that's what it said to me was, oh, come in and sit down. I can talk to somebody. Because obviously you're not going to order a beer at the bar. This is to actually talk with somebody. And so it removes that feeling of, oh, this turn and burn customer flow, or it's get in, get out. We've got 15 minutes to get you through, get that car out of the parking lot and let somebody else in.
Yes.
And so it's interesting how just those little elements of design can change the entire perception when you walk into a dispensary.
Totally. And it can be very intimidating too. It's just, so yeah, we wanted to do something that just felt really like you could come here and get your questions answered, and maybe someone would suggest something from the back wall and you can go pick it up. And then so in this shot, you kind of see, on the other side of that room would be a reception area. So maybe you're only letting 4 or 5 people in here at a time, or groups or whatever, just to keep the experience really personal. That's really what this one was designed to do. And then obviously, just to look cool, like we wanted to kind of bring a little bit of that California, like wink at the stoner culture to this. So the other one we've got, let me take this off screen. So the other one we've been working on is for, it's a CBD concept. It's a concept at this point, but it's called Spectra. And it's just kind of built off it's built off the concept of a full spectrum CBD product. So we kind of just wanted to jump off and do something super cool with different colors that felt really sleek and different, and a little bit more female oriented than some of these same treatments you've seen, but again, this one is really designed with the idea of you have this outer reception area and then an interior room where you're actually doing the transaction, and you might be answering questions. So we've got some.
So what would you say are the elements the top elements? So color, light.
Color, light, texture. Texture is the one that everybody forgets and is super important. So, color is important, but if you just paint your dispensary all in flat colors, it's going to look so flat. So think about softness, think about roughness, wood grains, prints. So in here we've got, whitewashed wood floor, we've got the marble, and then also the acrylic. So there's a variety of different sheens, like level of glossiness, glass.
So let me just ask you really quick, Brandy, as a designer, this is the kind of stuff that's really compelling to me. Why choose a white wood floor? What does that communicate? Why choose the marble? Why choose the glass? What do bringing these elements into the dispensary represent to people? Because a lot of design is based on what's going on just below our consciousness.
Yes.
Right? So that's what we're playing with. So what do all of these things communicate to people?
Let me show you. I'm going to bring up the reception area for this because that's really where the experience would start at this location. But so really for this one, we wanted the brand we wanted to feel a little bit more high-end, a little bit more sophisticated. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this other render so we can check it out.
Ooh.
So reception area is this. So you would come in, you got a little waiting space, but the whole idea with this was, one, we want to envelop you with this color, and that speaks to our brand story because it's a full spectrum CBD products, and we're using a full spectrum of color. Colored light also has a huge effect on your mood, so you can kind of tailor that, to have a very calming experience. Picking things like this more contemporary furniture and the sleek marble, it's all to give that look and feel like we want this to be like a spa experience. It's supposed to feel very clean and smooth and relaxing too. That was kind of the direction we went with this one. So contemporary glass, leather, just things that feel really nice, really. And when you walk into a room and it's furnished with, it's furnished with things that have a variation of materials, and all those materials are kind of in the same vein, it gives you that whole feel altogether. It's not a super great way to explain that, but you'll have to bear with me. This is actually the mood board for this space, if anybody's interested. So
yeah, this is good.
Pulling different ideas from, colored glass, what kind of furnishings, but actually putting something together like this is the first step that we would do. And it kind of is just supposed to give an idea of where you're going. So yeah, again, for this one, I don't have white wood on the mood board, but I knew I wanted like a light colored wood that wasn't going to feel heavy and it wasn't going to feel too masculine. And just really clean and light. I think clean and light are probably two adjectives that we cannot get enough of in the cannabis industry. So
I agree.
I think you can never go wrong with those. But then really just building off this idea of like different colored glass layers, having these like little comfortable alcoves to talk to people. Another part of this design that we're going to incorporate is a consultation room. So you can, meet with someone and talk about your specific issues and maybe what you want to use your cannabis for in a more private space. So I think that will be big.
Mm-hmm.
And this one too, we've got this super cool acrylic center table that is kind of, in my imagination, your bud tender is kind of hanging out behind the counter, and then they come out and give you information and bring you different things to look at this counter. So this is very much a 2 or 3 customer type retail space. You'd want to add, to have just a few people in here at a time. So it still feels very open. And that's another reason for all the white, just space, light. Let's see. Oh, I need to do this. There we go.
Okay.
I'm getting the hang of it.
Okay, so we've got color, light, and texture. When we start looking at what we're going to do for the dispensary, we're looking at signage, location, and I think that there were some more things that you were going to say.
Let's see, signage, location. Really, I think, I guess you could call it wayfinding, but just making sure that each area is identified, I think is really important. So, you know, are you like, where do you go first? Where do you check in? Where do you wait? And where do you purchase? Because it's kind of, it's a different retail experience than other retail experiences. And just, yeah, I'm thinking about that. I know we had talked a little bit about a client where you said the idea is for people to browse. We don't want them to come in and out. And there's different ways you can do that, which, you know, setting up maybe your retail counter where people are checking out is at the back and you give them plenty of room at the forefront to wander around, and or, you know, maybe it's a really cool central display where you're putting, you know, some of your latest finds, or even, you know, employee showcase. Hey, these are the things our employees recommend. There's a ton of really cool ways you can modify what your customers are doing inside your store. Another thing to think about that I was just recently thinking about is sound.
Oh, good one.
Because, you know, whether it's no sound, so you're just, you know, it's a nice quiet environment, or you're playing nice music or whatever. But the one thing not to do is to have a bunch of flat, hard surfaces and no sound, because you've just got, you know, noise bouncing everywhere. And that can be really psychological too. People, you know,
yeah,
everyone knows that restaurant they don't like going to because it's too loud. So I
did a tour of dispensaries in Santa Cruz, and I was just on edge when I left. Every one of them was playing horrible music.
Well, and that's another thing. So who's your target market? If you're, you know, maybe your employees like this, but if you're trying to sell to these, like, what music do these people listen to? But also with sound, your interior design plays a role in your sound as well, because things like carpet, drapes, even using acoustic panels on your walls. One, they look super cool. You can do a bunch of cool stuff with acoustic panels, but also it's contributing to that whole experience. When you walk in, you know, it's quiet. I can hear people speak to me, or they're playing really nice music, or whatever. But I think sound is something that's often overlooked. And when you're picking out all your hard surfaces and get it all in the room, you might be surprised at how loud it is.
Yeah, I think there are several elements to sound design that are critical, especially when you're dealing with an older population.
Mm-hmm.
Because too much noise is going to push them right out the door. Too much noise is going to make them get in and out, and you're going to lose that opportunity for making more sales and upsells, because they don't even want to be there. If they can't hear you, if they can't hear what's going on, they also can't make the right decision. So you really do have to consider sound as well as color, because you go into a place that's either too dark that feels hard and harsh, where as opposed to something light or something colorful, but the wrong colors can make people feel anxious. I mean, there's a real psychology that goes into design.
Definitely.
And you can feel it from dispensary to dispensary, where someone has at least made an effort versus, you know, who cares? It's all about the product. Well, product is secondary in that experience.
Yep, I think it's quickly going to become less about the product and more about the experience as there becomes more and more out there. That's really going to be what people compete on, is that customer experience, getting people in the door. But yeah, I think it sounds really simple, but I really think the signage, the wayfinding, and yeah, color, sound, it sounds basic, but it makes a huge difference.
And leave one of those out and you've got not a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can have, if you have the most beautiful dispensary in the world, but it's too loud or too dark, you know, you're not going to hit that market you're looking for. So that's super important.
Yep. All right. Well, ladies, let us know if you've got any questions. I think we're about ready to wrap up. We are right on time today. That's great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
It was a really good conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through what experiential design actually is and why this is so important. Whether you're trying to come out, as Jamie said, in an environment that is challenging and your municipalities are not getting on board, if you can bring them design of your dispensary that is beautiful, that's aesthetic, that will encourage the neighborhood to come up. I mean, look, there are a lot of dispensaries, I think, that people have in their head, and they see bars and black windows and people with hoodies walking in. But if we can show them an environment that's open and light and airy and inviting of everyone in the neighborhood who's old enough, you know, in places that are rec legal, but that we can start to create a different environment for cannabis as medicine. I mean, it has so much more legitimacy when a lot of those designs you were showing me. To experiences, setting up your trade show booth in a way that really invites all of the things that Brandy talked about in the dispensary experience in kind of a macro experience. Think about your color, think about your lighting, think about your sound in your trade show booth. That's also really important. And then I love the idea of creating experiences that go above and beyond either engaging with the product itself or the dispensary, where you're actually engaging with the brand in a way that you're being enveloped and heard and engaged with one-on-one as a customer. So thank you. And I hope it has sparked a lot of great ideas. I know that I've got a lot of things to write down after this call. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Jamie says, thank you so much. We've enjoyed having you, and good luck with Awaekn Creative. And I'd love to have you come back in a year and tell us what you've been doing and all the great designs.
I think it's going to be a wild ride.
It is going to be a wild ride for sure. And, you know, we barely touched on this at the end, but there will be a day before too long where dispensaries will be competing with Walmart and 7-Eleven and gas stations, and everyone will be able to carry it who can carry alcohol. So that day will come. What are you going to do as a dispensary to ensure that you continue to bring those clients in? Are you building that brand loyalty and experiences for them that they're going to have that 75% brand loyalty? So, okay. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Have a fabulous week. Thank you, Brandy. Have a great Jamie. I hope you feel better, honey. And we will see you next week on Mentor Monday. Bye-bye, ladies. Have a good week.